Hey y'all, welcome everybody. I see people have already started saying hello. Hey everybody, hey Tiffany. Let me know. Y'all always know I like to make sure you can hear me. So let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. If you can see me, comment 1. If you can hear me, comment 2. If you can hear me and see me, comment 1 and 2. And then if you can't hear me, let me know where y'all are joining me from today. We usually have a few people from all over the States and a few other countries. So I see Tiffany, I got your question, 2 questions. Jennifer, hey Jennifer from Houston. Somebody else says LinkedIn user. So sorry, I can't see your name. Hello, Osei. Nina, good evening. Natalia, hello. Trends, we see a lot of senior supercars. Okay, I see your question. Let's see who else. Paige, hi Paige. I see 1s and 2s. I see some 2s. Okay. Carrie Ann, hi. Debbie, hi. Khalil, hi. Hi, everybody. Jamie, I see you. Welcome, everybody. Paige. And Osei from Canada. Welcome, everybody, wherever you're joining us from. It is, let's see, 3 minutes after, I believe. Well, 4 now. So I want to give everybody a few more minutes to join. And then we're going to pick back up with the questions from where we left off from last week. Marie, I see you're joining us from Florida. Hi, Marie. So we're going to pick up from where we left off last week. Let's see. Come on. I see Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Paige, you're in Chicago. Thank you for joining us. Nasheen and Callie. Hi, Nasheen. Mark. Hi, Mark.
And I saw your questions, Mark. I sent you a couple of questions back. I asked for clarification about number one, the context that you've seen, ISIS, ISIS, and then I can't remember the other one. It was like C something M. Let me see if I can find it. Of course, it's not showing up in this feed right now. But you know what you put, right, Mark? So the context that you've seen those acronyms, and then I didn't want to make any assumptions about, why you wanted to know those specific acronyms. I'm assuming it's just because you want to increase your knowledge, but I wanted to hear from you and not make an assumption as to why you are seeking out those very specific acronyms. Um, Tiffany, you said Paige Wills. I see you follow the recruiter from there. May I ask, have you reached out to her? Um, oh, sorry, that wasn't for me. um, okay. So let me get over to the questions. It's 6 after now. Mark, I see you say, yep, okay. And then can you also provide the context that you've seen them? Because there's so many different acronyms in the industry between each company, and then they overlap sometimes. So I just want to see, like, what context have you seen them in? Like the specific, because you said you've seen them on CV. So the specific sentence statement that they were used in. So, okay. I think we have given everybody enough time to join. In case you're wondering why I have this on, some people always ask. It's just the heat and pad. So I have this like neck shoulder issue. And it's like from here to the right side, and it makes it feel better. So that's why I have it on. It's acting out today. But let me get to the question. So we're starting off with, and for everybody that's joining, if you're new, welcome. We do these live Q&As every single Monday, and at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so you can join. You can ask me any CRA career questions that you have. You can put them in the comments box during the live show, before the show. On the event itself, I post them on LinkedIn. That's my primary platform. So you can put them in the comment section there. And you can also DM me. And then if I don't get to your question during the show, which we are a little bit behind, I still am going through the list from questions from last week. But nevertheless, I'll get to it. I have a running list. So your question will be answered. Rest assured, it just might not be answered during the session that you send it to me. So if you have questions, you want to definitely hurry up and go ahead and get them in, because they, like I said, there are so many. And I'm also streaming on YouTube as well. So if YouTube is your preferred platform, you can check me out there and add your comments in YouTube as well. I check YouTube. So everybody, welcome. People that have been joining us every week, thank you so much for being loyal listeners. And for the new people, welcome. Just as you're just as welcome. Thank you so much for this being your first time. Put your questions in the comments, and let's see. So we are going back to, I have questions from Cloud. If I am pronouncing your name wrong, I apologize, but it's KHOLOUD. And she said it's her first time joining here. She has a biology degree and she's trying to get into clinical research. What's the best first step? So for those of you who have been following me for quite some time now, you probably can answer it better than I can, right? I see Jasmyn from Jacksonville. Hi, Jasmyn. Hi, Ahmed from Minnesota. And I see your responses, Mark. So we'll get to that at some point. And then Natalie. Okay, I see you responded to Mark. So thanks, Natalie. But back to the question. So Cloud, so if you go back to the very first couple of Q&A sessions, I cover it there in detail, some of the best first steps. I think I probably even covered it a little bit last week as well. It seems like every week somebody always has this question, and I get it because it's not that much information out there, right? And then if you also check out my podcast, so Confessions of a CRA, and you can check it out on all of your platforms. Then all of your podcast platforms, your favorite one. Then you can check out episodes 18, 22, and then 24 has a little bit of information as well. But if you check out episodes 18 and 22, I go into more detail there. But essentially, the way you can get in, and because you already have a degree, I will throw that out there, is to target positions that will allow you to get that foundation that they're looking for in entry level CRAs. And the episodes that I mentioned, if you go there, I go through a list of 10 categories that you should primarily focus on and the best roles to help you get as many of those positions as possible. I mean, those skills, experience as possible would be the CTA, so clinical trial assistant or clinical trial associate. You also might find them under different names. So y'all don't get too hung up in the names. That's why I wanted to give you a list of actual skills and experience, because each company, the names are all over the place, to be honest with you, especially nowadays. So the CTA is the typical traditional name. And then the study coordinator or clinical research coordinator is the same exact thing, just different titles, but keeping in mind that each company has different responsibilities for, the study coordinator. So some companies have their coordinators doing everything, whereas some companies have their coordinators kind of isolated to one particular area within research. So one coordinator might only handle data entry, one coordinator might only do regulatory, one coordinator might only focus on recruiting, another might focus on actually seeing the patients and conducting the patient visit. So keeping that in mind too. The best one, of course, is to get a coordinator position that will give you an opportunity to gain experience in all those areas. And then the third most straightforward pathway anyways would be the in-house CRA role, if you can get one of those. Outside of those three, there are a lot of secondary gateway roles, which is what I call them, that will still give you the same results of landing your first CRA job. It could be a study startup role, a regulatory coordinator role, data entry role. There's drug safety specialists out there, quality positions. There's a lot of different positions that will ultimately get you to the CRA path. But the three that I always mention first are those three, just because they give you the most opportunities to gain as many of those categories as possible and give you obviously a better chance of landing that first role. So check out, all the past episodes, like I said, and then the podcast, and I go in more detail. So the next question is from Barira. I hope I pronounced your name right, but it's spelled Barira. And the question is, do you need to be a CRA in order to move up to clinical trial manager position? And short answer, no, you actually don't. So if you check out my podcast, I actually have a couple of guests. I want to say, there's a couple of guests that I'm trying to remember specifically which ones that have made it to the management role, but they had no CRA experience, or they were in-house CRAs. So that's another path too. So yes, it is possible. Now, one thing that I will say, the caveat with that, is that it does sometimes put you at a disadvantage. So if you've had in-house CRA experience and you become a CTM, then okay, that can kind of supplement. But if you have like no in-house, no regional traveling CRA experience, then once you get that CTM role, it's kind of hard, or it's more challenging for those people, just because part of the role or the responsibility is managing CRAs and helping them navigate, their sites and, basically carry out the responsibilities for their job. And it's hard for you to do that if you don't understand what they're going through, right? So I always, is it possible? Yes. Is it the best idea? Not exactly, but can you still be a successful CTM and have a successful career without monitoring? Absolutely. It just, comes with its own challenges, as does everything, right? So if that's truly your goal, I definitely wouldn't let that stop you. But so just to give you a couple of the names for somebody that you can check out, I want to say, and don't quote me on this, but I believe I believe Mary Williams, one of my guests. She was one of my earlier guests from the first season. I want to say she's someone that she might have had an in-house CRA position, but she definitely was not regional traveling, I don't think. Um, and then one of my more recent guests, she's still in her, going throughout her career. But John V is another good person. John V Shaw is another good person to look at. Who else? Those are the well, Jeannie Farnsworth, I think she was a regional CRA though. It was a very short period because the travel just didn't work for her, but you could check out her episode as well. But check out the podcast. There's guests on there that you can definitely hear their stories and see just how you can navigate the fields without exactly becoming a CRA and landing that CTM role. So the next question comes from Kalel. Again, sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but it's spelled Khaleel. And the question is, do I need to take CRA courses to get a position? I have an MD degree, IMG. So long story short, no, you don't need to take CRA courses to get a position. I didn't have any specific clinical research or CRA courses. And most of my colleagues, honestly, they didn't either when they landed their first CRA role, and we've all had very successful careers. So it's not essential. But one thing that I will add is that trials are becoming more and more complicated, and the requirements, the FDA regulations requirements are becoming a lot more, detailed and strict and stringent. So there's a lot more involved with trials than say, obviously 10, 15, 20 years ago, but even 5 years ago, especially with COVID, right? So is it possible? Yes. Is it always the best idea? It depends on your background. So it can create for people that don't have any, research, science, medical background. I always say, please, for you guys, I recommend CRA courses or clinical research training or courses just because it will help create a better foundation when you go into the field and when you hear these words or see these things or have these experiences, then you have a reference point. So you can say, oh, okay, we learned about this in class. And then you're not completely lost trying to pick up the pieces and figure it out. But for Kalel, you said you have an MD degree, so you have that strong clinical background. So it might not be as pertinent for you. But I will say that if you are looking for like a basic foundational CRA training course that is, at your own pace, that is very detailed, in depth, that will get straight to the point, get you what you need. And that is definitely reasonable. I will point you to the CRA Helper. And she has an amazing course. If you look her up, CRA Helper, she has an amazing CRA foundation training that I strongly recommend. So I'll add that in the comments. I think I've recommended her before, but she goes through all the basics of, from A to Z, the GCP guidelines and regulatory guidelines and all the different types of monitoring visits and what should be done. I recommend her. And then also the CRA coach with Daniel. He doesn't go as in depth as she does in terms of like the regulatory end and all of that, but he gives you practical tools to help you navigate being a CRA in terms of, trackers and templates and things like that you need to carry out the visits and to stay organized and, to stay stress-free. So I recommend both of them. So I'll post that when we finish. And for those of you who might be interested in Daniel's course, I do have a discount code. So if you're interested, shoot me a DM, or you can comment as well, but I prefer a DM, and then I will get you the discount code. And so, Khalil, I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. And then Barrera, I see that you asked another question. So the question is, I have worked as a CTA and I don't want to be a traveling CRA. So what other roles help me to move up in my clinical research career? And Barrera, I totally get that. There's a lot of people that don't want to travel, right, for various reasons, because if I'm being honest, it is a lot of travel. A lot of people don't realize that how much travel it truly is. Some positions say 60 to 80% travel, and what that looks like on paper is 2 to 3 days per week on site, but then you have to factor in the travel days. So sometimes you might have to travel there before, and you might have to travel the day after, which will end up being, 4 to 5 days. So it could be a Monday through Friday, a Sunday through Thursday, a Monday through Saturday, even. Not to say that that's an every week thing, but you do have to be prepared for those times where it might be like that back to back for a couple of months, 3 months. And then it might die down, and then it might swell back up again. So it's very good and of you to have already pinpointed that out and know that that's not something you want to do, but you want to still, advance your career. So as a CTA, you have lots of options. We already kind of covered it a little bit before, where you asked about being a CTM, right? So if you want to go directly from CTA to CTM, and or it sounds like really ultimately your goal is to not have to travel, right? So there's lots of in-house CRA type, and not just, don't look just for clinical research associate, because there are a lot of different titles out there, like I was saying. And I'm going to gather a list of other alternative titles of jobs that I see, which I'm finding that, there's more and more as I'm working with my clients and we're getting them into roles. There's like all these new titles that are out there. So let me make note of that. I want to, next week I'll bring some alternative titles to you guys so you can know what to look for, because if you don't know, obviously it's going to make it even more challenging, right? So I'll make note of that. But so you can go directly from CTA to in-house CRA, and there's different levels within the CTA role. So they have CTA 1, 2, senior. And then and not to say that you have to be a senior CTA to move up. You can just be a entry-level CTA and then move over. But for the people that are CTAs, don't feel that love it, don't think that you have to get into another role. There's levels within each role. So you can go from CTA to in-house CRA, and then to CTM, and then even on to project manager. You can just keep going up the path. There's also some other roles that aren't they're not in-house CRA roles, so to speak, but they're kind of like data analysis type of roles, like risk-based monitoring type of roles, remote monitoring type of roles. Because again, all companies aren't equal. So some in-house CRAs, they might not be conducting remote visits or supporting the regional CRAs. There was one company that I worked for, in-house CRAs focused primarily on study startup activities. There's another company that I'm aware of, their in-house CRAs are kind of served more so as CTAs, in that they support, collecting the TMF documents and following those documents, QCing those documents. So you have to really look at the job description and see what you're getting yourself into, but you do have options, Barrera. Don't feel like you have to get out on the road. There's a lot of, if you look at some of the pharma companies, for example, even the CROs, there's different, like they might have a clinical trial specialist role, for example. There might be a clinical trial associate role, and it's kind of similar, right, to CRA, but different. And those little subtle nuances can create a path for you that you never imagined, especially on the sponsor side, because they don't have the same framework as the CROs, especially the larger CROs. And if you get with the sponsor side or some of the more startup CROs or the mid-sized CROs, then they have more non-traditional roles. So I would suggest checking them out and seeing what type of roles where you can continue to grow your skills and grow the experience that you will need to prepare yourself as a CTM. Now, I will say that Clin Essentials, they have, Tiffany Ashton was a guest on my podcast, and they actually have a CTM training course that you can take. So I would also recommend that you reach out to them, as they would know even best what your different options are, and they can help prepare you with the skills that you'll need so you can specifically and strategically seek out those positions that will help you acquire the skills that you will need as a CTM. And that's one of the things that I do with my clients, because my thing is CRAs, right? Everybody wants to be a CRA. I focus on helping people be CRAs. But I do have clients who being a CRA is not their goal. Some of them want to be project managers. Some of them want to get into regulatory. And, I do accept people that don't always have that ultimate, CRA goal, just because it's hard to find coaches in the clinical research space in general. So this is exactly what I help my clients do, is to figure out what their ultimate goal is, and then the best way to get from A to Z. Essentially, sometimes it's not always the CRA path. Sometimes people just don't want to travel. So find a mentor as well, which Clinicentials, they have. It's essentially like a 1-800 hotline for clinical research professionals. But they have consultations where you can ask these types of questions and get more feedback and things of that nature. So check out Clinicentials. I'll put their information in the comments as well. So Krista Bryant Thorpe, the next question is from you. And the question is, are there certain office supplies you recommend having when traveling on site? Like for any copies of documents, you may have a copy of the protocol, copy of an SOP, a notebook binder, label, folders, etc. So I told myself I was going to have Clinicential sent me some of their supplies, which I strongly recommend, and I'll make sure I have them to show you guys next week. But Clinicential sent me one of their kits. And it's really cool because they have like the sticky notes. If you're already a monitor, and Krista, I'm not sure if you're already a monitor, but for the people that are going on site and conducting these remote visits, they have these little sticky notes that are already kind of predefined and color coded with different types of common issues. And there is space where you can write additional information. There's a box on it for when the site can check it off as done and being completed. But it essentially provides a more succinct, color-coded system for you to create action items at the site. And this is one of the supplies, Krista, that I would recommend that you bring with you, just because it saves you time as a monitor when it comes to creating these notes and, following the different stickies in the binders for the sites that are still using paper binders, of course. And then it saves the sites time as well, because they can very quickly go through and see which items are urgent and the most pressing that need to be handled immediately, and then which other ones can be resolved a little bit later. And then it also helps them kind of like, okay, let's tackle all the protocol deviations. Let's tackle all the SAEs. Let's tackle all the the drug issues. So it helps them to batch them as well. So it saves time on everybody on every end. And they also have an electronic version of this same paper system coming out in September. So either way, paper, electronic, they have the tools that you need to really make monitoring more efficient, more smooth. And they also have to-do lists, to-do checklists to help make sure that you're prepared for your visit, what you need to do before, what you need to do after, other things, follow-up things outside of monitoring that need to be done. So they really have these really neat, cool tools that you guys should check out. I strongly recommend that you bring those on site with you. And then you asked about copies of documents. So some studies still send out the mini protocols, and it's just basically, let's see, do I have a little small book around? Like this. It's basically like maybe this size of the protocol that they've shrunken down. So of course, if you have a mini protocol, sometimes they might even send you, what do they call it? Excuse me. They might send you, what is it called? Well, basically it's like laminated copies of, let's say, some special events, or an assessment chart, or sorry guys, getting choked up, or some other tool that that's specific to this study. They might send you that on these like little laminated cards. And they might be the same size as a little booklet that I sent you. Sometimes they might be a little bit longer. Sometimes it's the big letter size sheet, the 8x11. But they'll send you these laminated copies of things, common questions, or sometimes even the IE criteria. They'll send that just because, you know, maybe it's super complicated. It's really long list. So of course, if the study provides you with any of those types of tools, yes, bring them. Otherwise, typically, most people have an electronic copy just because they don't want to be carrying all this paper with them while they're traveling. So you should get an electronic copy of your protocol, of your investigator drug brochure, of your pharmacy manual, of your lab manual, all those things you want to have on demand in a specific folder so that you can access them at all times. And then I see that you put, should you bring a copy of the SOP? So if you're a new monitor and, you know, and these are more so new monitor questions, because as you conduct these visits and you know, you carry out these visits, then you'll become more familiar and you shouldn't feel like you need to bring the SOPs along, right? But if it's something that you feel you need to do and it makes you more comfortable, then yes, by all means, print it off, or again, keep an electronic copy. And that will, of course, save you having to carry that piece of extra paper. Now, I myself, I am a paper person. So if, you know, if that's something that you work better with, then by all means, print it off. You really got to find what works best for you. There's no one size fits all, y'all. It really isn't. And you really, really honestly got to do what is best for you. Otherwise, you'll start trying to follow somebody else's system and really confuse yourself. Let's see. I see somebody asked, Nina, I see your question. Momi, you said, what's your podcast? And I'll put that back up on the screen. But it is Confessions of a CRA. And you can find it on all of your major. And I see, thank you. Someone posted it in the comments. So thank you so much for that. Paige, I see you out there. Let's see. Who else? Corrine. Findal, I see your question. I'm going to add that to the list. Nina, Marcella, I see your question. Jamie, hi. I see all of your questions. Corrine, hi, Corrine. Nice to see you. Join me again. Join us again. LinkedIn user, I see your question. Yep, I saw the assistant CRA position as well. And they also have started putting out associate CRA positions. I saw that with, I think IQVIA, and I want to say maybe Syneos. And I want to say one of the pharma companies, I can't remember, but yes, they've been putting out these assistant CRAs and associate CRA positions. And then Engine, hi, Engine. Yep, I see that question. So all the supporting. Let's see. Depika. Hi, Depika. Depika. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Great advice for someone who recommended City. Karina, I see your question. Sylvia, I see your question. Teradros, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Hi. Let's see. I see your question. And who else? Jasmyn Allen. I see your response. They're just rebranding the name. They're all CRA positions. Yes, some of them are rebranding the name, but some of them are really truly like these entry level, almost like apprenticeship CRA roles. It's like their bridge, the new bridge pathway to becoming a CRA. And it almost seems like you're kind of really just doing like CTA responsibilities or in-house CRA responsibilities. And they're preparing you to be a CRA based off the description anyways from the associate CRA and CTA positions. That's what I saw. So, okay, I digress. I wanted to catch up on all the comments. But back to Krista's question. So those are the supplies that I would recommend that you have on site. I also recommend that you have What else? You said a notebook binder, label folders, etc. That's typically what I bring in terms of study specific things. I always bring a blanket too, because typically it's super cold. Bring a lunch if you don't want to leave, but I do recommend leaving the room to eat and not staying in there. At least go find like a nice quiet place. But bringing your own food can help you like step away and have like a some time to really like regroup and relax. But if you have to go get food and then come back, then that in and of itself can sometimes be stressful. I also recommend headphones, depending on what type of person you are. Sometimes listening to like some classical music if you're one of those people, or whatever kind of music you like, or just a nature sound or something can help with the mundaneness of it all and help break up things and not get too sometimes depending on what study you're looking at, in all honesty, it's like looking through all those medical records, constantly looking at a screen, hunched over at a desk, depending on where they have you sitting. It can really take a toll on you. So snacks, what else? I would say that's it. If you have a wireless mouse, I would say bring batteries, because mine has died and it's not always fun having a laptop and having to navigate that pad. But yes, I've seen people that bring it's actually a portable monitor, and it can make things easier. Some sites, they have a little setup for you so you have an extra monitor, but if they don't, I thought it was pretty cool, because having that portable monitor gives you more space to work with, and having that one little screen, depending on the size of your laptop, can be create its own set of issues and decrease your productivity. So those are some other things that I would recommend as well. And let's see, Deepika. And again, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, I apologize, but it's Deepika. So how do I search for volunteer positions like you started? So I'm not sure what area you're in, Deepika. But let me see. I want to try to use, I don't think it'll let me. I was going to try to do a screen share so I could show you exactly what I meant. It might let me share if I can figure this out. Maybe I can't. Okay. I don't want to mess up the screen, y'all. So I'm going to leave this alone. I'll be prepared next time. But what do I mean? So essentially go to the search field in LinkedIn, and depending on what area you're in, let's say you're in, I see you work at Charles River Lab. Let's say you're in North Carolina, right? And you want to look for some volunteer positions as a study coordinator. So I would go to the search field on LinkedIn, and I would, and this is just one way to look, and I would enter in study coordinators, and I would put in my city, because then it'll allow you to filter down. So then I would put in North Carolina, I would put in the city, let's say it's Raleigh or Charlotte, and filter down to the city. And then I would look and see what options come up. Who are study coordinators, in the Charlotte area, in the Raleigh area. And then I would reach out to them and I would send them a message, and I would say, hey, I don't know what your background is, Deepika, but let's say you're newly graduated and you want to get some experience, right? So I would just say, hey, just recently graduated from college. I'm looking to break into the clinical research field, and I see that you're a study coordinator at such and such. Just wanted to check with you and see if you guys have any volunteer opportunities where I could come and help you out. You want to be specific. Don't be very vague and say, do you know of any volunteer opportunities? Do you need any volunteers? Like, you want to be specific. Hi, how are you? If you can, find a place to connect. I see you're in Raleigh. I am too. I see you went to such and such school. I did too. I see you're connected with such and such. I am too. Try to find a way to connect, be specific with your question and let them know that you're actually reaching out to see how you can help them in their organization. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the study coordinator. If you can find site managers, if you can find other staff at the sites in your area, perfect. Send them that same message. And then outside of LinkedIn, another way to look is to Google sites in your area. So Google clinical research sites. If you are having a hard time finding it through Google, you can always go to clinicaltrials.gov. Clinicaltrials.gov, I'm sorry, and you can check them out, and they always list the places that are conducting research by location, so you can look there as well. But essentially, you would look at, get a list of all the different places in your area, and sometimes they have, depending on how big the site is, sometimes their websites, are completely developed or they don't have all their information on there, so they may not have a contact for career opportunities. But if they do, find that contact, send them a similar message via email, or if it's only a phone number, call. Same thing, ask who you need to speak with, who's in charge, who's the manager, who's the director. Say the same thing. And essentially, you go through one by one and keep an open mind and a positive attitude. And essentially somebody will say, yes, we're dying for help, especially nowadays, because there's a high turnover with study coordinators. So trust me, somebody will eventually say yes, as long as you don't give up. I see Juan Carlos. Hi. Krista. Oh, yes. Oh, wow. You have a portable monitor. Wow. So you're already prepared. I hope I answered your question, Krista. If you were looking for something else or some additional information or something more specific, let me know, and I'll cover that as well. And then Alessa, I'm assuming it's pronounced Alessa. Hi, I see your question. And so that is how you can find a volunteer position. And then let's see, Kristen Fowler. So let's see what your question is. I have worked as an RN for 2 years and was recently educated about the wide and educational world of clinical research. I am beyond interested and excited to dive in, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to learn more and dive into the field. Okay, awesome. I guess maybe I cut off your question. But I don't see a specific question there. But I will say, Kristen, that specifically for RNs, people that are looking to transition from the RN space into the clinical research space, perfect segue, because some of the companies that are looking for entry-level CRAs are specifically seeking RNs. So you have an advantage there. You just got to figure out which ones, right? But most of the larger CROs, even the larger sponsor companies, they're always looking for RNs. Some of them actually have training programs that are specifically filled by people that are RNs looking to transition over. So you're in a great space and a great place to transition. And I'm not sure if you have any clinical research experience at all, but if you don't, I would again still recommend those same resources, the CRA Helper, the CRA Coach. I recommend them. And then GCP Findings is another place, y'all, that you can go to and get some good GCP training. And it's interactive. It's not just reading slides, but it's interactive, and it's they have example documents that you can go through. Kind of I wouldn't say copies of real documents, but they mock them very well. I will say they look like real study documents that you can go through, and they're interactive, and there's tests. For example, it might be a delegation log, and then you have to go through and identify all the areas that have discrepancies or issues that you need to resolve. So it's very interactive in terms of, not just reading a slide, but really engaging and helping you have somewhat of, as best possible an experience remotely, that's the same experience that you would have on site, so to speak. So I would check out those resources. Somebody mentioned City as being a resource to go to. I would recommend them as well. They have good GCP training and other trainings too. Alessa. Oh, Lessa. It's Lessa. Okay. Wait. It's Lessa. Lisa. Alisa. Okay. Okay. I hope I got it right. It's Alisa. Um, so tell me if I got it right this time, Alisa. I hope I did. And Mark, I'll drop the GCP findings one at the end as well. But if you Google GCP findings, it should come right up. And then let's see. We're running out of time. I want to get to at least one more question. So okay, I got it right, Lisa. Okay. Yes, I got it right, Alisa. Okay. So Deonja, I think that's how you pronounce your name. It's spelled Deionja. So it says you're currently a high school biology teacher. I have a BS in biology and an MS in biology, and I'm looking to transition to research. What are my next steps? So great. You have some great educational backgrounds. And the same thing for the very first question that I addressed at the beginning of the session with Cloud. I believe that's how you pronounce her name anyways. Very similar steps in terms of looking for those roles. And I will preface this by saying, I know a lot of you are like, oh my God, I already have a master's, I have a PhD, I have an MD. Why do I need to go backwards and get a CTA position? Why do I need to go backwards and get a study coordinator position? And you really cannot think about it as backwards, y'all, because education knowledge and experience knowledge, working knowledge is two totally different ball games, really sports, honestly. It could be that different sometimes, depending on the type of experience that you have and the type of education that you have. And I've seen people who even have clinical research degrees, because that is now, more prevalent. They didn't offer those back when I was in school, not really in college anyways. But now that they're becoming more prevalent, people have clinical research degrees. They get in the industry and they still struggle. Nothing is going to outweigh experience, mostly because, and don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you guys not to get as much knowledge as you can. And if you want to get the degree and the trainings. And I'm not telling you not to get that, but I'm telling you that don't think that because you have that, then it's an automatic guarantee entitlement to a job. That's all I'm simply saying. Because a lot of what they teach in a classroom is what should happen, right? In the best case scenario, this is what you should see on site. But 90, 95, 98% of the time, depending on what study you're on, it's not like that. So you have to be able to have, think quick on your feet and be able to really work independently, especially if you're traveling, you're regional, because nobody's going to be with you, y'all. You're going to be by yourself. Even if you have a co-monitor, I've never seen, I guess there might be some odd chance, one-off where you are in the same city as your co-monitor and you decide to meet at the airport together and all that good stuff. But most of the time you're coming from different places. So even if you have a co-monitor, you're not going to be traveling together. And so you have to be able to really be independent, be a problem solver, be analytical. You have to be resourceful, all these things. And a lot of that just comes with experience. You can't really get those things from a book. So, and I see, yes, you really can't get those things from a book. So, experience is going to be your go-to. So getting these, what you guys are considering entry-level positions, don't think of them like that, because you can be a CTA. I've seen people for like 3 months, 6 months, and then they're able to transition into a CRA role. And don't think that if you aren't one of those people that you're behind or you did something wrong either, because everybody has their own path, their own journey. And I do not want you guys to compare. But I'm just saying all this to say that, do what's best for you. You have to really strategically look at where you are, what gaps do you have, what experience gaps do you have, what education gaps do you have, what training gaps do you have. See what fits best for you. What do you specifically need to do? And that's where having a career coach, a mentor, an advisor. I have a podcast coming up where I'm going to be talking about, everybody knows about mentors, right? Some people know about coaches, but there's so many more advocates that you essentially want to have on your side as you're building your career and you're, coming into that career mindset versus that job mindset. So stay on the lookout for that. But you don't want to look at these other positions as lower level. You want to look at it as stepping stones, as opportunities, as a strong foundation. And it will really help propel your career versus the people that are, going quicker than they need to. And then they stumble. And then I'll talk to them a year later and they're like, oh, I left. I've been left the industry because they can't handle it because they moved too quick, too fast. They had a weak foundation and they didn't have the tools that they need to be successful. So I really want you guys to think about that when you think of like, I don't want to have to go backwards. I don't want to have to start at the bottom again, because there is no bottom. I can't stress that enough. We all need each other in order to make these trials happen. Literally, whatever position you have in the field, it is essential. Trust me. So don't look at it as the bottom. Just look at it as a piece of the puzzle. And if you can kind of, change the way you think about these positions, and that in and of itself will help you to open up your mind, open up your heart, and be receptive to the CTA position, to the study coordinator position. Because trust me, once you get into that CRA role or that CTM role or that project manager role, that's it. Nobody's going to baby you. Nobody's going to train you, because then they're going to say, well, you've been in this role long enough. You should know. So whatever experience that you can get before you jump in, get it, take advantage of it, leverage it, learn all you can, because one day you're going to wish that you could go back and be a CTA or a study coordinator. Okay. So we're coming up on the hour here, and that's going to wrap up for today. So we're going to start next week with Candace Mitchell. She has a couple of questions for us about which class would benefit her with becoming a CRA. So we'll talk about that. So Candace will be up next. But as always, I thank you guys so much for joining me. I will drop all of the links that I mentioned in the comments. And then next week, I will start off, before I get to any questions, I promise you guys different titles. So I'll start off with different titles, and then I'll start off with showing you the Clinicentials package that they sent me, so you can see that. And then I'll even go through the 10. I don't think I've ever actually gone through the list of 10 categories that I created to help, people navigate and figure out which roles are best for them. So I'll go through them as well to give you guys, you can check it out on the podcast, but I know everybody's not going to go. So we'll start out with that, and then we'll hop into the questions. So everybody, please continue to send your questions. I'm keeping a running list, of course. I love the questions. Keep sending them. We have so many great or check me out on, my podcast on Confessions of a CRA. You can visit confessionsofacra.com, or just go straight to your favorite podcast platform. And then also enrollment for my one-on-one coaching program is still open. I still have a few more slots available. So if you are interested in working with me one-on-one and, bringing me in as your coach, I would love to have a chat with you. So visit aspiringcra.com and you can book a call with me. And everyone else, thank you so much again for joining me. And I will see you next week back here again, same time, 7 p.m. Talk to you all soon.